And welcome to Facebook and YouTube. It's Carol and Lavinia with you on the bright side, joined by Sha-En, our happiness scientist. We are about to hit live on air, so join us on 91.3. It's Lighthouse and Hanging by a Moment here on 1FM 91.3. Good morning to you, Carol Lavinia, and joined in the studio this morning by our happiness scientist, Sha-En. Welcome back, Sha-En.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
You, of course, no stranger to the world of positive psychology. You are LinkedIn's Asia's top mental health advocate for 2021, a two-time TEDx speaker. And we're so happy to have you in the studio every Monday to talk on very interesting topics that relate to our personal lives and our work lives as well. You know, we've talked about kin keeping, we've talked about burnout. And today, our very exciting topic is the toxic workplace.
Yes, the toxic workplace environment. For a long time, no one put a name to it. You know, it didn't appear in newspapers until 1993. And it's the toxic workplace environment. So we jump to the now, and it's still around. And the good thing is we are made more aware of it and how it can actually affect our well-being in terms of productivity as an employee as well. So that is what we'll be talking about to Sha-En for today.
So it's a huge issue, right, Sha? And what would you define as a toxic workplace environment? What causes it?
A toxic work environment is one where there's a lot of negativity, a lot of antagonistic behavior. Like sometimes you get passive aggressive, like, you say yes out front, but underneath you're like doing all kinds of things to irritate, or, even sometimes being hurtful or bullying behavior. And that is baked into the culture of the company. That means no matter where you go, who you interact with, you can sense it, you can feel it.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
you just go through every day like that.
Yeah.
Rough.
Why should we be taking it seriously? Some people might think, just grow up, just deal with the stress, just deal with,
Yeah.
whatever behaviors,
Or-
learn to manage it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's baked into the culture, then it's going to be baked into the fiber of your being, isn't it? And just like, if you imagine how many hours we spend a day at work, people aren't either or. Like, you can't go to work and not bring your home self there.
That is
And you
true.
can't go home and not bring your work self there. So if it is like that at work, it's definitely going to affect you day to day, right? And if you bring that back, it's going to have really
Yeah,
bad
definitely wouldn't
consequences.
want that kind of vernacular or vocabulary or attitude seeping into my home environment. Because, like children, sometimes they go to school, they learn certain things and they come home with certain vocabularies. And I think sometimes that too happens
Yes.
in our marriages, in our families as well.
And it's so easy for that spillover to happen. All these
Absolutely, yeah,
different.
because it becomes like almost osmosis, right? It's gone into you, and then
Yeah.
it leaks out to your family, which is what we all don't want.
I don't
Yeah.
want. So tell me this, Sean, like what are the 5 key signs that you are in a toxic workplace environment?
Yeah, I mean, we look at research from Donald and Charlie Sau, who are senior lecturers at MIT Sloan School of Management, and they have features like disrespectful, non-inclusive, unethical behavior. Like maybe you share a customer and suddenly you take the customer away from your colleague and you don't say a thing. Cutthroat, and abusive, whether it's verbal, or whether it's just like exclusion. I think these are the top 5 attributes that they found.
Yeah, some of them are actually hard to pinpoint. They're not overt. They're kind of like passive aggressive type behaviors.
Yes.
Like exclusion, for instance, when you're constantly excluding people from conversations or even lunch.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like the topic
Yeah.
of lunch is a very big thing. It can actually, does it sometimes even appear as bullying? I
It
wonder.
can, I mean, it depends also with how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, occasionally you want to have your own quiet time or you want to sneak off and run your errands, it's fine. But if you do that consistently every day with just 1 or 2 colleagues and you don't invite them to lunch, that's exclusion. And that can come across as, you're not worth my time.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I can see myself. I could have accidentally done that because I'm just, trying to like, get things done,
But I suppose it's also how you do it, right?
Yes,
How
that's
you
right.
say it. I mean, people understand that you have errands to run, but if it's like a constant, like, you don't even tell your colleague that so suddenly at 12, everyone's just gone and you're left there by yourself.
Yes, that's
I think that
right.
can be pretty hurtful for someone. So can a toxic workplace environment still exist even though, more people are working from home now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, toxicity is not relegated to the physical environment, right? It can happen over language. So if you text someone and you have those words, that's toxic. And those words linger. And in fact, if it's captured in black and white on like a WhatsApp messenger, then it's even worse. Almost everybody can see it. So the abuse can still happen even outside the physical
Yeah.
environment. Yeah.
Oh gosh. And then if it's like captured into like, words, black and white, people can actually read it over and over again and then continue to let it
Yes,
sort
and
of
that's
like
what I'm
affect
hearing a
them.
lot of, that
Ah.
even in the hybrid environment when people were home and they saw it on the phone, and because everybody gets to see it now, if you're the one at question, you feel embarrassed already because 1-to-1 already very bad, right?
Yeah.
And then now it's like one too many. Everybody is seeing all these things.
Especially in the
Yeah.
workplace group chat.
Oh, yes.
Oh my
you know.
gosh, you're
It's like a field day
humiliated
in
by
there,
your
you know.
boss in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we learn to draw the line and when do we raise it up? We'll come back with Sha-En and chat about that in just a few. But meanwhile, do join us. We are live today on Facebook and YouTube. Head on down to Facebook. It's facebook.com/1FM913 and on YouTube as well. If you want to see Shan's beautiful face, it is there for you this morning. Also,
Lucky I put makeup today.
combed your hair. And also, if you have any questions, you can check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Ask us your questions, or you can send it to us via WhatsApp. It's 88550913. Back with more in just a bit.
Good times. Greatest hits. 1FM 91.3.
Hello, everybody. I want to say good morning to some of our fans on YouTube and Facebook. Chunjet
Yes. Hey there. Good morning to you as well.
and Ashikin. Looking good. Why, thank you, Ashikin.
because you are also
we-
looking
We
good.
combed our hair this morning. Have you ever had Sha-En for yourself? I mean, because you are the expert, right?
Mm.
Have you ever had experiences of toxicity at the workplace yourself?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And how did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
I think for me, it wasn't direct to me, but I observed it. For example, people who are very controlling and manipulative, but they produce results, but they are the ones who get
Ah.
promoted
Yes.
because it achieves the business goals. So these people just rise up, but then they are the ones perpetuating all this abusive, controlling behavior or
Mm.
excluding behavior.
Yeah.
Or like, I look down on you, so you're not part of my gang. So I got
Oh.
insider knowledge. I'm not going to tell you. So I've observed it.
Yeah.
And even just on the observing part, I could feel how painful it was for the receivers.
Okay. One thing that I struggle with, right?
Yes.
The smoking crew. There is
Mm.
always a crew that goes smoking and information. It's like the episode in Friends, a lot of
Yeah.
deals, a lot of conversations happen during the smoke break. And then when you come back down, it's like, oh, I just met the GM, so and so, this and that has
Yeah.
happened. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, you miss
know-
a very big memo, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those are like big conversations that would have happened as well. So I don't know
Yes.
how to deal with that. Do you have any tips?
I think sometimes it's like, it's a culture that's set by the leadership.
Hmm.
A culture is made up of different people, but it's the leadership that sets the tone. So if you as a leader, you do notice that such things are happening, then it's important to like have one-on-one conversations, not just with the people who are the smoke crew, but people who are not, to understand where we could find common ground
Yeah.
and then kind of bring everybody back to the same culture and same purpose. I know it's easier said than done.
It is
is,
because
yeah.
then
Yeah.
you seem like the one who's like whingy, like
Yeah.
you're not happy and you're
Yeah.
petty and stuff like that. But
And on the other hand, you also don't want to compromise your health by trying to
Yes.
join the smoking crew.
but the
you know?
irony is that
Yeah.
I've seen people who do go and join the smoking crew,
Ah.
even though they're not smoking.
Ah.
Just
Mm.
for those moments where those conversations happen.
Ah.
Yeah,
I think people
so-
want to belong, right? Nobody
Yes.
wants to feel left
There's
out.
a
and-
great sense of wanting to belong. You're right.
Yeah, and it's a distinction between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in is like you're given a square, then you're circle, then you try to fit into the square. But belonging is that I can be the circle in a square environment, and that's okay.
Mm.
It's very different.
Oh, that's a very good point. The
Yeah.
circle in a square
It takes a
environment.
lot
and
of
it's
courage
okay.
and a lot of confidence to say that, though.
And there's a lot
Yeah.
to navigate. There's a lot
Yes.
to
Yes,
navigate in
absolutely.
reaching that balance.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's a lot of mms.
A lot of all knowing.
Oh, good morning. Our boss is checking in on us. Hello. Any
It's
questions
all
for
it's
you,
all
boss?
good, boss. We don't have a toxic work environment here. We happy. We happy like birds. Yes.
None of those references
No,
were about this place.
no. There's no smoking crew. Okay, no such thing.
Got bubble tea crew. No?
Oh yes, that's a crew I don't mind being a part
Yeah.
of. Yes.
The bubble tea crew. Yeah, but the
Oh.
lunch thing is a very real issue, I do
Yeah.
find, something very small like lunch. I mean, it's affected my mom as well. I've actually seen her go through that. It was very painful to observe
Yeah.
because then you could see examples of ageism as well. The
Mm.
younger crew walking away, excluding the older workers from their
Okay.
lunch, So
Yeah.
it's very, very hurtful for an elder person as well.
Yeah, but I mean, if you see if the culture is set up correctly, then people can have a bit more of open, safe, honest conversations.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but I guess it's not always easy to get there.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like you said, leadership dictates how the culture is. It's not
Yeah.
always so easy to change the leadership. Just really, really quickly, some of the things that we've brought up. Is there anything that one can do to sort of cope? Because it's hard.
Oh, we're going to go back on live and
We
answer that
are,
question.
yes.
Okay. All right, give us a moment here. Join us on air 91.3. Good morning. Welcome. are getting into the groove of the brand new work week. That is Madonna and Into the Groove here on 1FM 91.3. Good morning to you. You're joined with Carol and Lavinia on the Brightside, and also with Sha-En, our happiness scientist, the very first happiness scientist in Singapore.
She will be the one and only for me. I don't care about the others that come after her. There's only one happiness scientist, it's her.
Yes, welcome back, Sha-En. Now, a reminder for you can join us also on Facebook Live at facebook.com/1FM91.3. We're also on YouTube this morning. So join us there, have a chat with us. You can send us your questions there as well. And on WhatsApp as well, 88550913.
Yes. So this is a question. We're talking about toxic workplace environment. So we pointed out about, signs of how you might be in a toxic work environment. And now let's talk about how can one cope being in such an environment? Because it's not so easy as to like, okay, I quit my job, I leave. People don't always have that luxury. And maybe they like what they do. They like their job. They don't want to leave. So what can they do to cope?
Yeah, I think if you are starting to experience those signs, it's important to bring it up. Even though it may be challenging, because if you don't bring it up, number one, nobody knows. And then if nobody knows, no one can take action. Number two, if you bring it up, then you have sort of reported it.
Okay.
Otherwise, it could go on and someone can say, but you never say what, you never report. And there's
so
no
like a paper
evidence.
trail.
Yes, almost like a paper trail.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like you want to do it because you're going to a court case or anything.
Oh, no,
but you
no,
need
no.
to be able to say like, hey, this actually happened to me and it's real and I'm really experiencing these things.
So what is the order or the chain of reporting? Should we go to the colleague first? Do we go to our bosses first, or HR even? At which point, how do you know who to go to first?
Yeah, I suppose in the early stages you may not be sure, right? So you kind of talk to your colleagues, and if you sense that this is not just you experiencing it and there's like a lot of it going on, then perhaps you can bring it up to your immediate superior. And of course, let's say it's your immediate superior who is the one, then I would say, what are the channels available in your office or platforms that you can voice this? Whether it's anonymous, I'm not sure. Some companies I've worked with do have that.
They do. Some companies do, yeah.
And some have more direct channels where you go to HR. So it really depends on your organization.
All right. So how does one deal with that feeling of being trapped in that job or workplace that is very toxic? I mean, because as much as we want to just up and go, that's not always a viable option for people. Maybe the individual doesn't have the luxury of leaving that job. So what can they do
to survive?
To manage this?
Yeah, I think getting support, if there are like-minded people in the office, you can support each other. That's one. Number two, you can get support outside your workplace as well. It doesn't always have to be a professional therapist, but at least talk to your spouse, talk to your friends about it so that you have an outlet. And then of course, being clear on your own values. Like, do you want to join the smoke crew and just fit in order to survive? Or do you want to say, hey, I know what I'm here for. I'm going to focus on my goals and stay true to myself. It's not always so straightforward, but I think having that clarity will allow you to show up at work differently.
Yeah, so that's something we brought up on off air while chatting with our Facebook crew.
Yep.
The smoke crew. I'm sure a lot of us have encountered that. If you're a non-smoker, there is during the smoke break a lot of conversations, a lot of vital conversations sometimes happen there. Although those who are part of it will come back, it was just a casual chat. But then you find out you're missing out on certain bits of information. Something was not communicated. So that again is another form of a toxic work environment. Actually, especially when I think it becomes
like isolating, you're excluded.
Right. It's consistent.
And it could take the form of a bubble tea crew, as Sha-En pointed out,
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for bringing that up. So on to our next question.
Yes, we want to know, how can you spot the signs in someone else? Because we may not go through it. I love my job. I love where we're at. But what if like my spouse or even my kids, who are working, or even a fellow colleague? How can we spot those signs and what can we do to help them?
Yeah, I think they will likely feel exhausted and be very negative in terms of their body language. Even they'll probably be slumped over, or maybe they don't really want to talk about it. Or sometimes they are complaining nonstop. And, if the complaints become to the point where you can see it affecting their mental health, then I would say, maybe something's not right here and we should just follow up and, check in with them.
Okay, so bottom line, Sha-En, how do we know enough is enough? This is time to go.
No job is worth sacrificing your mental health for. I mean, I get it that, we live in the real world and we need to
earn
make
a living.
But I think that if you have brought it up many times and it's continually happening and it's affecting your family life and your functioning, then I think it's time to go.
That's where we should draw a line. That's a good point. Yeah.
I also feel like if you're no longer the same person, like you feel it's just different and not in a good way, then you
Yeah.
definitely need to relook some of
Yeah.
these issues that are happening at work, right?
I guess maybe it's more of like not letting it affect you until it manifests into a health problem as well, right? Because that's when you know it's
Yes,
really
yeah, there are
serious.
some
The stress
people
is
who-
getting to you, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sha-En. It's been so educational and enlightening chatting to you about toxic workplaces.
Always happy to be here.
Thank you. Where can people look you up? Where can they find you?
Okay, on IG and Facebook, it's Happiness Scientist, and on LinkedIn, it's Sha-En Yeo MAPP.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll chat to you next week.
Hit us up on WhatsApp.
We're still streaming. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We hope you enjoyed that chat with Sha-En. Do look her up if you do have any related questions.
Yes, and we do have Chunjet who joined us in for our very first streaming. And he says, very interesting topic. Well,
Yeah.
Chunjet, I hope you've got some really great takeaways, that will be useful to you or maybe to someone that you know about the whole idea of this toxic work environment.
All right. Like this video, share this video. We'll chat to you soon.
Good times. Greatest hits. 1FM 91.3. Good times. Greatest hits. 1FM 91.3. Good times. Greatest hits. 1FM 91.3.